Greetings, everyone. This is Long Nu. Welcome to Spiritual Science. Yes, a little bit of a channel name change here. And I'm going to start with part 3 about the dragons. Dragons really do exist, unlike the Western culture portrays it as mythical and imaginary. And Western culture and Western religions try to take people away from so many different truths, and one of these truths is the existence of dragons in our planet and among other planets as well. So Western culture tries to demonize the dragon, making it look like it's this evil creature that one has to become dragon slayers and slay the dragon. So there's various movies made like in this kind of image, and different computer games and things like that are all about, slaying a dragon. And it's like conquering this dragon, because the dragon is representing harmony with nature, and Western culture goes against harmony with nature. So this is one point. And dragons are very real, and dragons love very tall mountains and high elevations. So many dragons live in the Himalayan mountain region, Himalayas, and definitely other mountain areas, mountain regions. They fly high in the sky. They also live within the waters. They are a serpent species, also called Nagas. And the Nagas, they actually have their own planet, Nagaloka, but they also come to this planet here and live here as well. So there's many different dragon species, much more than I talked about one of my videos, the 14 dragon species. There's even more than this as well. A lot of dragon species, and they all have different characteristics. And so now I'm going to talk a little bit about dragons in Buddhism, in Mahayana Buddhism, and to speak a little bit about this. So here we go. In Mahayana Buddhism, Guanyin, the goddess of mercy, Avalokiteshvar Chenrezig, is often depicted riding a dragon. Likewise, Tara is depicted riding or standing on a dragon. Why Guanyin and dragons? We can assume in part her association goes back to her associations with the sea and Mount Puto, her sacred place. In Chinese art, Guanyin is often depicted either alone, standing atop a dragon, accompanied by a white cockatoo, and flanked by 2 children or 2 warriors. The 2 children are her acolytes who came to her when she was meditating at Mount Puto. The symbolism is very clear. Guanyin and Tara represent compassion in action, while the dragon represents actual practice of compassion and dharma, the powerful activities that relieve the suffering of samsara. Samsara is the cycle of birth and death in the material world. Literally, dragons are everywhere in Buddhism. Makars, literally meaning sea dragon, are ubiquitous in temples and even home doorways as guardians, and are one of the symbols found on the Vajrayan Dorji, Vajra thunderbolt scepter, and Bel Ganta. One of the Dakini attendants of Palden Lamo is called Makar, faced or sea monster, faced Dakini. Poor translation, it should be sea dragon faced Dakini. More on Makars below. Dragons represent nature's forces in Buddhism. Dragons are directly associated with nature. Oceans, rivers, and the heavens are often dragon deities in Buddhism. Since nature remains a vital part of Mahayana Buddhist spiritual paths, dragons have a pride of place and sovereign elements of nature. typically associated with the east, spring, and growth green dragon, but also with fall and harvest brown or yellow dragon. In Eastern mythology, Nagas are a class of being whose primary role is as protector and benefactor. Since their abode is the deep water, they are a source of knowledge and of fertility, but they also guard the immense riches of the earth. Thus, the Eastern dragon has mainly benevolent and auspicious characteristics, but in Western mythology, the role of the dragon has been strictly curtailed, rendering it into an ugly, greedy, and jealous opponent of the hero. It is the opinion of some that the reason for this has to do with the way people in the West view nature itself as something to be vanquished. You see, just what I was saying. The Western point of view, all coming from the basis of these religions, Christianity, Catholicism, Judaism, anything coming from Greek and Roman. This all goes against what they want people to focus on and be narrow-minded believing in. And they can't expand their perception to be open-minded to any of the Eastern spiritualities at all. And they want to view all that as like demonic, satanic, you're going to go to hell kind of thing. But you can see how much destruction to nature Western society has caused. Prior to the Middle Ages, however, dragons in the West were mostly positive or neutral natural forces. Later, as non-nature-oriented spirituality came to dominate Europe, dragons began to be recast as evil or monsters. Saints, knights, and heroes would slay the dragon, in part to symbolize man's dominance over nature. In Eastern traditions, dragons retain to this day their positive nature-oriented personas. Guanyin, standing on an immortal dragon deity, Guanyin's compassion rides on the active power of the dragon, representing the fusion of compassion with activity in samsara. Dragons in the East predate dragon myth in the West. In China as early as 16th century BC, and in India as Nagas even earlier. Dragons are sacred to Vairochan, the Buddha of the East or center, one of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, and are also often depicted with Vrajadhar Buddha, the Vajrayana emanation of Shakyamuni Buddha. A 9-headed Naga or dragon protected Buddha is Sutra as he meditated under the Bodhi tree. So Lord Buddha is an incarnation of Lord Vishnu, and Lord Vishnu also has the many-head Naga protector serpent that he lies on. Lord Vishnu lies on the Garbhodaka ocean at the bottom half of the universe, and he's lying on Anantasesha, the king of the Nagas. And as well, that's one expansion of Vishnu. Another is the Karanodakashayi Vishnu, lying in the Karana ocean, which is extending way beyond this universe, and millions of universes expand out of his body, and he's lying in the Karana ocean, and he's also laying on Anantasesha with many hoods, this Naga. So similarly, Buddha is being shown to have Naga, 9-headed Naga, protecting Buddha. And the reason for this is because Buddha is non-different from Vishnu. Since dragons are associated with nature's great forces, they can be considered both positively and negatively, but either way requiring respect. From Kondranet, the rains that fertilized the land were attributed to the actions of the dragons, but so were the tremendous and devastating storms that sometimes occurred. These were attributed to the movements of the great celestial dragons as they emerged in the spring or descended to their caves in the autumn. Tara on a dragon. Tara as the activity of compassion who sprang from the tears of Avalokiteshvar is the heroic activity of compassion in the world. Riding the dragon represents the power of nature, aligning with natural forces rather than fighting them. Dragons also represent the power of activity. True dragon represents practice. Why does Buddhism still embrace the dragon? In Buddhism, dragons symbolize importance of practice with intellectual understanding. The true dragon in our Chan story above, they also represent oneness with nature. Dragon rather than Mother Nature. It is for these reasons we often see Guanyin or Tara riding a dragon as the embodiment of enlightened compassion. She, Guanyin or Tara, rides the awesome dragon king who represents enlightened activity. This tells us that while we might understand and embrace compassion in our minds, this is not sufficient. The dragon is activity, compassion put into motion in the samsaric world or Mother Nature. Comprehension and intellect alone are not enough. Activity and practice, putting compassion and wisdom into action, are vital to the Buddhist path. Likewise important are oneness with all of nature, represented by dragon. Temple statue of 10,000 armed Avalokiteshvar, Guanyin, Chenrezig, on a three-headed dragon. Three heads typically symbolize the three bodies of enlightenment, or three bodies of a Buddha. It also stands for enlightened body, speech, and mind. Guanyin and Tara above represent the Savior Bodhisattva, the activity of compassionate wisdom. Compassion without activity, the true dragon from our opening story, where dragons represent practice, is only a concept. Concepts without the activity of the dragon cannot benefit beings suffering in samsara. Likewise, any being at odds with nature is certainly to suffer. Tara, for example, helps protect us from dangers in the natural world. How? By helping us live in harmony with nature. So this is very important, that, to have the concept of compassion, one needs to practice it in activity. One needs to practice the teachings of Buddha Dharma to actually make an impact on oneself and others. So just having it in mind is not enough, but one needs to actually practice it. So that's very important. Dragons in sutras. Guanyin's relationship with the dragon is a cherished one that goes beyond symbolism. One of Guanyin's main attendants is Lungwang Nu, the daughter of the Dragon King. Dragon King himself is considered a Dharma deity, symbolic of the great power. He often appears in Lalita Vishtar Sutra. Similarly, Varochan, Buddha's sacred guardian, is the dragon. Dragons are symbolically considered protectors of the sutras. Sagar, the Dragon King, is an eminent guardian of Avalokiteshvar in Sutra. It is Sagar, whose name means ocean, who presides over the world's supply of rain, according to Avatamsaka Sutra. Chapter 12 of the Lotus Sutra contains the story of Sagar's daughter, who later becomes fully enlightened Buddha. Dragons are also associated with wealth and prosperity and appear with prosperity deities, notably White Jambal, an emanation of Avalokiteshvar. White Jambal and the dragon. Dragons are also strongly associated with prosperity Buddhas and deities, such as White Jambal, who inevitably appears on a dragon, as described in an exhibit at the Met. Although part of the jewel-born family associated with the Buddha Ratnasambhava, White Jambal is said to have been born from the right eye of the compassionate Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara. He is identifiable by the dragon he rides and his gold sword, a variant of the Katvanga ritual staff, which he holds in his left hand. He alleviates suffering from poverty and sickness and purifies non-virtuous karmic actions. A Tibetan temple faniel in Lhasa featuring a dragon makar. Dragons are pervasive in Buddhism. In Tibet, the Drukpa lineage, Druk literally means dragon, the dragon yogis. In China and Japan, Buddhist dragons are universal and celebrated. In India, where dragons first emerged as Nagas, they protected Shakyamuni Buddha, and Makars, sea dragons, appear everywhere as guardians. Makaramuka dragon-faced Dakini. Makaramuka is sometimes translated to English as sea monster-faced Dakin, although this is an archaic translation of dragon. In Europe, dragons are monsters instead of divine deities as found in the East. Makaramuka, or dragon-faced Dakini. One important enlightened meditational deity in Tibetan Buddhism is the Makar-faced Dakini, dragon-faced Dakini. Sometimes this is English translated as sea monster-faced Dakini, which is an inaccurate Western translation. It should be Makar-faced or dragon-faced Dakini. She is part of the retinue of Palden Lamo, Tibet's most important protector enlightened deity, but she also has her own practices. Makars are sea dragons, not monsters, who can shift form like any dragon, but most often appear with a half-dragon, sometimes described as crocodile-like, and half-elephant form. There are two other important animal-faced Dakinis, Simha Mukha, lion-headed Dakini, and Sarvadula Mukha, tiger-headed Dakini. So an important point here is that dragons are able to shape-shift. They are able to go from a very small little creature like a worm or some sort to something very, very huge and large, and even take human form as well. They have shape-shifting abilities. We've already talked about how reptilians can do this same sort of shape-shifting, and dragons as well can do this sort of shape-shifting. Now, what is the relationship between dragons and reptilians? So in my viewpoint, the dragons species are like what is described here, protectors. They're well-wishers of human society. They give many benefits, many positive benefits, and they're very auspicious. Reptilians, on the other hand, are rakshasas, demons, demonic in nature. And they are the ones who are working with the high elite occult in running this planet, ruling over, dominating this planet. The dragon species might be having conflicts with some of the reptilian species, and not all dragon species are friendly and auspicious to human beings. There are various different grades of these nagas, different species. And so I would say it's like a mixture of things going on here, but the majority of as we see, because so many bad things are happening from those in power, the powers that be that are running the world, is being dominated by the shape-shifting reptilian species who are Rakshasa in nature, demonic in nature, evil-spirited in nature. So that's different from our friendly dragon species. Okay, I'm going to continue now. As a dragon Dakini, for similar reasons to the representation of dragons with Wonyin, she represents activity of compassion and wisdom. Like other Dakinis, she dances actively. Auspicious in the east, stormy in the west. In Buddhism and most Asian cultures, dragons are universally auspicious, typically considered deities rather than monsters who bring life-giving rain and fertility, wealth, and are often enlightened heavenly beings. On the contrary, in ancient Western cultures arising from Greek and Mesopotamian myth, dragons are more likely to be monsters, since man is seen as opponents of nature, destined to conquer nature, rather than its allies. Dragons in the East would typically be thought of in the same was as we'd think of Mother Earth in Western myth, especially later as Christian myth supplanted earlier spiritual paths. The dragon became an adversary of noble heroes questing to kill them. Unlike its demonic European counterpart, the Tibetan dragon is a creature of great creative power, a positive icon representing the strong male yang principle of heaven, change, energy, wealth, and creativity. Dragons are shapeshifters, able to transform at will from as small as the silkworm to a giant that fills the entire sky. Dragons are depicted in one of two colors, green or brown. The green or azure dragon of Buddhism ascends into the sky at the spring equinox. It represents the light's increasing power in springtime and the easterly direction of the sunrise. The brown dragon is the autumn equinox, when it descends into a deep pool, encasing itself in mud until the next spring. But its spirit is still with the practitioner, bringing wealth and health. The pearls or jewels clutched in the claws of the dragon represent wisdom and health. The dragon can control the weather by squeezing the jewels to produce dew, rain, or even downpours when clutched tightly. The dragon is the vehicle of Vairochan, the white Buddha of the center or the east. From a feature on Buddhist symbolism. So, a side note here about the jewels. This is very relevant that the dragons have lots and lots of jewels. In fact, their hoods, the dragons that have the many heads, the many hoods, they're always decorated with very vibrant jewels. And it is said in the lower planetary systems, which don't get any sunlight, they would be in complete darkness without the sunlight. However, these lower planetary systems are lit up by the jewels of the Nagas. The Nagas have so many jewels that the entire planet is radiating with light from the jewels coming from the Nagas. Alright, so dragons as shape-shifters. Alright. In Buddhism, where form is emptiness, emptiness is form, Heart Sutra, it is not surprising to find that dragons are of no fixed form. This is why you can see them sometimes with horns, fish bodies, serpentine bodies, lion heads or other attributes. They can shapeshift, even appearing as beautiful people, as other animals, or even shrinking so small they are invisible. And this is very, very true. Very, very true. So, again, they have this ability, and so do these other entities. Rakshasa demon entities have also an ability to shapeshift. So it's very interesting to note that they can do this as well. Eastern dragons require no wings to fly. The great and beautiful creatures fly in the air and swim in the sea and move between worlds and dimensions with equal ease. I do believe that the so-called, what they call Loch Ness monster in one of those lakes is actually a dragon living in the lake. Or it could be more than one dragons living in the lake. When the founder of the Buddhist Drukpa lineage in Tibet founded the lineage's first monastery, it was on a site where he had seen 9 wingless dragons soaring gracefully through the sky in a mystical vision. They are not limited physical creatures as portrayed in Western myths depicting knights slaying fire-breathing winged dragons. Chinese dragons can fly and swim and are masters of ocean as well as skies and rain. They need no wings to fly, as they are deities. The dragon is also one of the most auspicious animal signs in the Chinese zodiac. I'm going to stop here as the part 3, and then we will continue with part 4, starting with dragons are hardwired into the collective consciousness.